Welcome to Waters. Today's class is going to be on its top 10 evergreens, but there are so many different evergreens out there, so we're just going to touch on a few. If we miss one that you want to know about, please let us know and we can definitely talk about those. The first thing that we kind of wanted to go over is that here in Prescott we have really good growing conditions. That being said, we've got good temperatures. The only downfall is our soil. We have 4 seasons, which is great. We all like fall color. We all like the evergreens that we have in, around Christmas time, the holidays. We hate just having a plain rock wall, yard. So evergreens really come in handy in those situations. A lot of new people are coming in. They're from other parts of the country where it's nice and green. Prescott has its greenery around, but we do have to help our yards a little bit because we are water-wise, which is why we all have rocks and things like that. So today's class we're going to kind of talk about some evergreens, how to take care of them, how to maintain them, how to go about planting them, and then if there's, like I said, if there's something that you guys need to ask, please don't hesitate to ask. If it's something specific to your yard that's not part of the evergreens, we can definitely meet afterwards and Doug and I will try to help you, okay?
So one of the themes of the class today is that evergreens, when you think about evergreens, we often think about pine trees, right? You've got spruce there, black pine, whatever it might be. But what we want to discuss today is that it's not just about pine trees. There are many options when it comes to evergreens, and they can be trees, shrubs, and ground covers. So we collected quite a few of them up here, and we'll talk about each one individually and how they might fit into your garden. And if you have questions about them, feel free to ask. So you might say the theme is it's not just about pine trees.
Okay. So planting an evergreen, we are going into the perfect time to plant evergreens. Fall is great because we still have 2 or 3 months before we get really cold, and then all the root systems kind of shut down. They stop growing. Kind of just halt until March, and then we start warming up and they start growing again. So they get 3 months now and 3 months before May, before the heat, the wind, and all the hardships come towards the spring and summer of the year. So now's a great time to get those in. If you've thought about planting a tree or a small shrub, it's a good time. We do provide planting services, so if you find something large that you guys can't handle, we would be happy to help you with that. We have 3 great guys that do a really good job on planting. We also have folks around here that can teach you how to do it as well. Basically, to plant anything in this area, you want to dig the hole just as deep as the pot that is going in, or the pot that you're planting, and 3 times as wide. So if you're looking at something in a 2-gallon pot, you're probably going to go out about this wide and just this deep. So pull your plant out, because this one's kind of sitting about right here. So if you're going to err in either up or down, you always want to go up. You never want that plant to sink in the hole, because if it sinks in the hole, when you water, all that water kind of sits against the crown of the plant, and then you start getting root rot, and it starts other problems like fungal issues and stuff like that. So always, if you have to dig deeper, make sure you're packing that hole so it doesn't settle.
Many of us here have soil problems, you might say, less than ideal soil, as Michelle mentioned. One of the things I wanted to mention is that some of us, if you live in Prescott Valley, maybe in Granville, you may have some clay in your backyard. This is the situation with my sister-in-law. It helped her out. Some areas are just fine, 3 or 4 feet away. There's a major clay wall there that prevents proper drainage. So when you're considering a spot for a tree or a shrub, one of the things that you can do is go ahead and dig a big hole, take all the soil out of it, and then before you plant, fill that hole up with water. This is called the perk test. Fill it up with water, and if there's water still there the next day, then that's telling you that there's probably inadequate drainage in that spot, and you might want to consider planting somewhere else. You could maybe repeat the test. But if the water drains quickly within a few hours, then you're going to be okay. Michelle mentioned the plants being too low, water staying there, and the same problem can happen with inadequate drainage. More often than not, trees and shrubs here suffer from too much water rather than not enough. And too much water can sometimes be a result of inadequate drainage. So you're just going to put something in the ground that's going to struggle, and if it doesn't drain properly, it's just not going to thrive there. So that's one thing to test. Don't be discouraged if you try clay or rock here. That's typical with the ground. You try somewhere else nearby, and you might have a better result.
If you're in that situation where you are finding a couple of places where there's no drainage at all, consider creating a berm of some sort, because anything that's kind of up will allow you better drainage, or retaining walls work really well, just to get them off so they're not just sitting in that clay. When it comes to watering, if you do have that clay soil, remember that you're not going to water as much as someone that has really good drainage will. So when we give you our planting guide and tell you to water twice a week, if you have a clay soil, you need to check. You need to be vigilant about watering, because your situation is a whole lot different than someone that's in DG and has really good drainage. When you're digging your hole, you want to put 2/3 natural soil, and that includes that clay, or DG, or whatever you have. When you're digging your hole, you want to make sure you get many of the rocks out. If they're small, don't worry about that. But 2/3 natural soil, 1/3 mulch. And when I say mulch, our mulch is more compost. It's a composted mulch. It's not the big bark chips that everybody thinks about to put on top of your trees and shrubs. It's actually organic matter that you're putting inside your planting hole to give it something for your water to hold on to. It also helps break up that clay, so it gives you a better growing condition, and it helps that drainage issue if you have it. We also use root and grow. This is actually a new product for us. The old root and grow worked really well, but someone brought this product by last spring. Ken used it in his yard and found he had great results with this. So we decided to switch products. And so we're really happy with the results on this. We've also come up with new labels, which we're really happy about. We all think it's great. We kind of voted on them, and it was fun. Fertilization is another key to planting success. Our pH is really, really high here. So we need to help bring that down. All of our fertilizers have sulfur in it that will help lower that pH level, which helps the plants intake all the nutrients better. So we fertilize 3 times a year for our deciduous stuff. In all of our evergreens, we fertilize 4 times a year. So we always tell you to remember your holidays, Easter, 4th of July, Halloween, and New Year's for your evergreens. And that just keeps nutrients going in the system of the plant. It keeps them healthy. It gives them what they need to green up, to flower, all that stuff. We did add another fertilizer to our product line. It is the fruit and vegetable, which is right behind Doug. And just because it says fruit and vegetable, if you are in the clay soils areas, this product is going to be great for you because it has that calcium content in it, which makes it great for fruit and vegetables, but it also is basically like gypsum. It helps drainage. One thing I would caution with this one is it's bigger than our all-purpose. It's more pelletized, and dogs seem to like it a lot. So if you have animals, make sure you use it, water it really well in, or mix it in with the soil. And always, with both products, don't leave them sitting there because the dogs will eat it. If it's scattered around in your yard, usually they'll take a sniff or two and then they'll leave it alone. So I guess we can start talking about different plants. Doug, you want to start?
Sure. Let's talk about the cotoneaster. So there's a family here to our right of cotoneasters. These are evergreen shrubs that come in a couple different varieties. They're great plants around here. You probably see a lot of them. And they're evergreen. They do well. This one here, and then we have a couple of versions of this kind of small and medium. This is called Coral Beauty. A lot of these have maybe little white flowers or orange berries in the fall. But these do a great job of hiding things maybe you don't want to see, like maybe the cable box that the builder thought it was a good idea to put it right in front of your house. This fills in nicely. It's pretty woody. Animals usually stay away from it, and it's a great evergreen ground cover. This plant is also cotoneaster, and it's new to us this year. I believe I don't know if I saw it last summer.
No.
It's called the Canadian creeper. Same concept, but a little bit lower. So you have low, in between. There's another in between as well. Same concept, berries, evergreen flowers, filling in, not too much height. On the other hand, this cotoneaster carnei is, every now and then people will come in and say, I want something that's going to grow rapidly and look kind of whimsical, have no symmetry, and on and on. Here it is. This just really grows like crazy, and you can let it be or you can trim it. I wouldn't recommend you try and make this into a box as some of our local gardeners do. It doesn't lend itself to a rectangular shape. It's just kind of wild and all over the place. One of my neighbors, again, has a couple of these hiding a whole group of cable boxes outside her house. This is a workhorse. You probably see it all over the place. And then,
What was that one called? Parnai cotoneaster.
Does it get really tall?
Parnei. And yes, it'll get pretty tall and it'll fill out and it kind of goes like this. That's what it looks like.
Usually about 6 to 8.
And then, wow, I think these were water this morning already. This is another cotoneaster. This is, what do we call this? A gray version?
The gray leaf cotoneaster.
Gray leaf.
This is one of my favorites because it has the gray leaf. It gives you some different textures. The leaves are a little bit smaller than your typical cotoneasters. Little white flowers, red berries in the fall, which are really striking with those gray leaves that they have. So there's a lot of different versions of cotoneaster. So you just can pick and choose, or you can mix and match. You know, they all look great. This is a kind of a ready-to-use. This is the wax leaf privet. A lot of people use these for hedges. Get in that 6 to 8 foot tall range, but it's a really pretty shrub as well. Very trimmable if you want to kind of keep it you like your manicured look, or you want to just kind of keep it rounded or square. But really fast growing. It does have little white flowers, kind of insignificant as far as flowers go, but really pretty shrub.
And the flowers, even though they're nothing like a rose or anything, they do have a nice fragrance.
Yes.
And I just this morning looked down from my deck at my wax leaf privet. They're 11 years old now, so they got to be pretty big. Their summer growth is a little bit like the Cotoneaster, these long shoots going way out like that. And as I looked in that area, I thought it's starting to look a little overgrown. So I'm going to go in there maybe fairly soon, next couple of weeks, and just cut it back a little bit. But if you cut wax leaf privet back with a hedge clipper, it's okay. You know, some plants and shrubs don't lend themselves to that, don't always come out with a good result. You can do that easily with a wax leaf privet.
All right. This is a spreading yew. A yew is one of those that need a specific area in your yard. These guys can't take the hot afternoon sun that we have. So morning sun they can do. It's that hot afternoon sun that they cannot, they'll get crispy on you. So these are one that you need a specific spot to put them in your yard. But if you have a nice shady area, or you have patio areas and you just need some green, these are great. Get in I think 3 to 4 feet tall, and then they kind of spread out for you.
And there's also a tall version that I think we have some over there. These also have berries. The tall ones can be on the side of the house where it's a little bit shady and grow up and be tall and attractive and relatively low maintenance. Evergreen. So should I pass this around? Pass this clipboard around, and if you're interested in receiving emails which will include a video of this class, which I'm sure you have to have that, as well as updates, we just send you gardening information. We don't sell your address to anybody else. So it's just about events here, special sales, informational, just kind of a following up on what we talk about in the course.
We also had somebody ask about a list of evergreens that grow well in this area, and I'll include that as a PDF on the handout.
Okay. Yeah, I did find a list that had all of our top 10,
Right.
And we can send that. This guy here is a golden euonymus. Kind of reminds me of a hippopotamus. It's kind of how I remember. This is a great shrub, especially if you have dark spots in your yard, or just need some bright color to lighten up for the winter, because it remains this color all year round. These do as well bloom, not great big ones, but small ones like the privets do. One thing I will caution with these is the deer and the rabbits think this is a buffet. So be careful with this. Or, keep it in a yard where it's fenced, or you can always buy products to keep deer and rabbits away. But it's great shrub, about 4 by 4 as far as its size goes. But it's a great pop of color. Works really well in pots. So if you needed a pot on a patio just to give you some color for the winter, this would do great.
So this golden euonymus is one of a whole family. There are somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 different kinds of euonymus, I believe. We have some of them here. Some are solid green, some are green with silver, some are less gold and more yellow. Sometimes folks who really like these might do a mix and match because there are shorter and taller ones. That kind of thing. But that gold really stands out. I've got one of these in the corner of my yard, and when I approached the house, I was looking in the mirror and slow down so I can admire my yard, look for landscaping and everything. So of course I see the trees first, and then I see the gold. It just stands out, against whatever it is, the landscaping, rock, evergreens, anything that you might be growing. That gold is a really rich, deep, saturated color, and it does nicely, and it's pretty low maintenance. In about a year and a half, the plant hasn't done much of anything. I'm thinking one of these days it'll grow up and be an adult plant, but I haven't reached that stage yet. But I think it's a great plant and it has that color, and it's there all year round.
And it's one of those things that I want to remind people, because of our growing conditions that we have here, it usually takes a couple of years before you really start to see growth. Especially on certain plants, and this is one of those plants that'll really not do anything for the first couple, 2 or 3 years, and then after that third year, you're starting to really pop. So one thing to remember is kind of sleep, creep, and leap. So your first year, all root system, and which is what we want. We want a strong, healthy root system. The second year, they're going to creep along. You'll get some growth. You'll see some noticeable growth on them. And then the third year is when you really will start seeing size come out.
Is it the wheat part?
Leap, yes.
Leap.
They're leaping.
Leap, not weep. You don't have to weep because the plant's not surviving. It's leaping out there, so you can be happy.
So on that subject of patience, I'm just going to touch a little bit on watering. Watering is a very significant piece of our survival puzzle here in Prescott. So know your sprinkler system. If it's a drip system, know how much water is actually coming out of your system. Know what emitter sizes you have. If it's all on one zone, you need to make sure that your trees are getting more water than your little shrubs and your perennials are. One of the things that we get asked a lot here at the store is people will come in with leaf samples, and we're very happy to do that, to try to help you through. We want you to be successful, and that's kind of why we're here. So know your system, know how much water you're actually putting on the plant. Most of us overwater our plants tremendously. So that being said, our general guidelines, and they are guidelines, new plants twice a week, and it depends on the size of the bucket that you are buying. So if you bought this, it's in a 2-gallon pot, 2 gallons twice a week. Like I said, if you guys have clay soils, you're going to want to check on that when you go to do your second watering that week. Just make sure that you need to. Maybe your ground's not draining as well. If you need to skip it, if it's still wet, don't worry about it. I mean, it's a guideline. Don't worry about watering it. As long as it's moist, it's going to be fine. So that's one of the biggest issues that we have, is trying to tell people how to water. And if you guys don't know how much water, we can't help you to find out, because a lot of the symptoms are the same whether it's too much or not enough. So that's going to kind of be one of the first questions that we ask.
When you check for how dry it is, how deep you go?
Her question is how do you check to see how wet your soil is? So usually your first couple of inches are going to dry out pretty quickly. So you definitely want to go at least 4 to 6 inches down to find out whether you need to. And when we want you to water, we want you to water deeply, really deeply. Watering every other day for 10 or 20 minutes isn't doing your plant any good. Because if we have a hot week or something, and you don't have long hot roots, and you're just watering, you're going to end up losing the plant, because that initial watering, it's going to evaporate really quickly.
So last summer there was a gentleman that came in and showed me a picture of his blue spruce, and he said, it's turning brown, it doesn't look healthy, even though I water it every day for 5 minutes. So I said, well, that's probably, there's a problem right there. Why don't you try once every 10 days for over an hour? And he kind of looked at me like I was crazy, but that's another good rule of thumb, especially for a tree. Let's say it was a 5-gallon tree, so the root balls may be this deep. that water needs to be all the way down there. As Michelle said, you want to figure out, are you getting down to the bottom of that root ball? Because if there's dry roots at the bottom, the tree's not going to do well. We talk here sometimes about using a rebar or a long screwdriver, but I noticed over at the Master Gardener Help Desk over at the rodeo grounds, they have a probe. It has a nice little handle at about this much depth. You can just put that in the ground. So if it just moves in slowly and you don't get any resistance, you know that you water there. If it stops and it's that short of the end of what you think is the root ball, that means that area there is dried out. So that water probe is helpful. I think they're only about $5. It's a good tool when you're trying to determine how much water should I use, because there's no single answer that we can give to you that will work for everybody, because everyone's yard is different. Soil, sunshine, wind, all those factors are all variables. And so that's Michelle saying, you got to know your water system, know how much, go by these rules of, 1, 2, 3 rule, 1 gallon for a flower, 2 for shrub, 3 for tree. There's some general guidelines that are kind of like nursery rhymes, right? The basic truisms, but it's important that you study this and learn about it. And 5 minutes a day for the spruce tree is not the right way. And chances are, if you got an automated system, that's the way to go. Because if you're just out there holding the hose, most of us are going to get bored after a while and say, this is probably enough, this is good, and then that's the end of the water.
On that, if you are watering with the hose, a lot of the little stores, Ace Hardware and PV have them. It's called a flow meter, and you can actually put it on the end of your hose, and it'll actually tell you how many gallons is actually coming out of your hose. So if you wanted to do it by hand and you didn't have a system, you could do it that way. Okay, on with the plants. This is a Nandina, Heavenly Bamboo. This one is the Sienna Sunrise. 3x3 is what this guy gets. This is one that has amazing fall and winter color. It's already kind of starting to turn. So they go orange and reds. There are a whole bunch of different varieties of these. This one, the Gulfstream, the Tuscan Flame, Tuscan Sun, one of those, they're all kind of in that 3x3. There is the regular Nandina, which gets like 5-6 foot. Is more tree-like. It has more stems. That one gets a little bit bigger. They all do the same fall color. There's also the Harbor Dwarf that kind of stays in that 1 to 2 foot range. So if you're looking for a smaller Nandina, that would be one for you. These are not related to your regular bamboo, even though they say bamboo, not even close. They just kind of have that bamboo leaf. So they're not going to sucker, they're not going to invade everywhere. So great plant. It is evergreen, so it's a great addition for anyone's yard.
It's a standard that you probably see around here as you look at it today. Maybe you drive around and see it's pretty common in landscaping because it's a good hardy plant. As Michelle mentioned, comes in small, medium, and large. And unlike regular bamboo, it's not going to spread, so you're not going to wish you had a panda bear in your backyard trying to take over. It's nice and compact, and you get the leaf all year round.
I'll take this one. These are junipers, and junipers kind of get a bad rap around here because we have so many. The alligator junipers are similar, but these guys don't pollinate like the alligators do, so you don't have to worry about allergens and all that. All trees and shrubs release some sort of pollen, but not like the ones that you see look like a puff of smoke, or the tree just lit up on fire. I think Ken had that video out last year. I don't know how many of you saw that.
Oh, yeah.
But he hit one of his alligator junipers in the springtime, and it looked like the whole tree was on fire.
He threw a shovel up into the branches,
yeah.
and then it just popped, I guess.
Junipers come in all shapes and sizes as well. These are just two of the smaller junipers. This is the mint julep, and that's the tamarax. This one gets in that 5 by 5 range. So if you need a little bit of height to fill a corner or hide something, it works really well. The tamarack is a slower growing. It gets in that 18 to 24 inch, and then it spreads out about 5 feet. You want to tell them about some of the bigger ones?
Sure. We have also tall, thin junipers that can get up to 12, 15 feet tall. A lot of folks will buy those for not only a windbreak, but maybe some privacy. And usually they don't get too wide, maybe 4 to 5 feet wide. So we really have junipers at both ends of the spectrum. Smaller than these, as Michelle mentioned, brown covers, blue-green shades. Some have a golden look to them. And then we have a couple blue and green, which we call blues, Spartan junipers, if you wanted something a little bit taller for your backyard. So you have quite a range, low maintenance, moderate growing, but something that will be in your yard and all year long, green, and you're not going to have to do too much maintenance.
Yeah.
Is there a point in time where these would be self-sustaining without having to water them?
Usually after, I would say probably 4 or 5 years, you could probably stop watering. But that being said, if we have a particularly dry month, you'll probably want to definitely water. And that goes for anything, even if it's Arizona cypress or alligator juniper, because anytime those guys get stressed, they're going to invite bugs, pests, and diseases that will sense the vulnerability of the plant. So we want to keep them from getting stressed. Let's talk about this guy here. So this is a Arizona cypress. This guy is a chaparral. There are probably more than 3, but we carried 3 different forms of this tree. This one has this really pretty sagey color. The regular Arizona is kind of the bluish green. The bluish green one is the taller and the wider of the 3. It usually gets 25 feet by about 20. This one will get about 12 to 15 by about 10 to 15. The blue ice is pretty similar in size of this one, but it's a striking blue color like the spruce one. And then the needles, I guess, are different on the blue ice and the Arizona. So they're the same plant, but different varieties.
It's really a great tree that kind of grows naturally. It's not symmetrical or grows together a little bit whimsical. I've seen some Arizona cypress in little empty lots, mature, doesn't seem like anybody's paying attention to them. They're doing pretty well. And, they just have kind of that wild Southwest natural look about them. Nothing manicured to them at all.
And the nice thing about this one and the blue ice is it has this really pretty bark to it that is really striking with the 2 different colors on there. So this is a pyracantha. People usually have a love-hate relationship with these guys. Because they tend to be deadly. They do have long thorns that can bite you when you're trimming. But these guys are a great plant. They're pretty aggressive growers, can hide different things. If you're trying to create privacy, you can put them on a lattice fence or a trellis of some sort, and it'll fill out that space. If you start trimming it, it'll actually grow faster for you. White flowers that are gorgeous in the springtime. And then little orange berries that the birds just love. So some people are afraid of this guy, but if you put it in a place where you don't necessarily need to do a lot of trimming, it's a great plant. Like I said, because it's good for the birds, it stays nice and green, and it gives you a couple of different seasons for it.
Need to be supported?
Say that again?
Does it need to be supported?
No, the pyracantha does not need to be supported. In fact, my favorite pyracantha story is the first house I ever bought. After we moved in, it was in May, and I looked around the side of the house, and this pyracantha had grown up onto the roof of my house, into the gutters, just going crazy, and into the neighbor's yard. It was right between our two houses. I hadn't noticed this, of course, when we were looking at the house months ago. So neighbor and I got up on the ladder, and we did a whole lot of pruning. I wore gloves, he didn't, so the thorns got to him, which means the next day his knuckles were all swollen. But cut it back and shaped it into a nice tree and tried to keep it that way. So it's pretty fast growing. As Michelle says, the berries come out, birds love them, they get kind of intoxicated and make a lot of noise and so on. Another house I lived in, I think a bird helped, because I had a volunteer just plop and start growing in between two oleanders. I'm wondering, how did this happen? And before I knew it, it was trying to outcompete the oleander, so I tried to keep that one back. So be ready for fast growing, give it some space. There's evergreen, beautiful berries. Be careful of the thorns.
You know about the berries and dogs, if they eat them?
I honestly don't, and usually what I recommend is if you are concerned and you have a dog that likes to eat things, I would definitely talk to your vet. Talking about berries for you that I mentioned earlier, those berries I do know are toxic, so if you're thinking about it, you be careful with that. Yes, ma'am?
Would it stop coyotes from coming in?
No. She asked if it'll stop coyotes from coming in. I doubt it unless you had a really thick fence and you planted it everywhere and they couldn't get through. This little guy here is a really neat plant. This is an Abelia. This is another one that likes morning sun, afternoon shade. This is one of the few evergreens that actually have flowers. Everybody wants evergreens with flowers, and there's not a ton of them. But this is one of them. There are different sizes and shapes of this one as well. This is the kaleidoscope, which really has the different leaf color. The bark is spectacular with this nice red burgundy kind of color. 2x2 is usually what this guy gets. There are some other ones down towards the other greenhouse that get in that 4 to 5 foot. Kind of have that graceful branching like the Parnike cotoneaster. They just kind of do their thing. I think that one has actually pink flowers. So it's a really pretty shrub if you have a little bit of afternoon shade. Yeah. Okay. So this is our Oregon green pine. This is a black pine. The nice thing about this guy is that some of us are all in kind of small yards where we can't have these massive trees that get 20, 30 feet wide. This guy only stays in that 10 to 15 range, but it has the nice green pine needles. It does do some smaller cones. It actually branches from the bottom up. So it's a really nice sized tree. About 20 feet tall, full grown, and about 12 feet wide.
And pretty fast growing
And it
as
is,
well.
yeah.
So a lot of people come in and they say, okay, I want the fastest growing tree that you have. I'm kind of old, I can't wait for a tree to mature, I can't wait 20 years for that to happen. So what they're saying, evergreen, we'll take a look at these Austrian pines, and we have a couple of them. They're pretty fast growing trees, and they're not going to spread out and take over the yard. They will fill in nicely.
Yes, and there are all different types. This is just the Oregon green Austrian. The regular Austrian pine actually is one of the fastest growing evergreens. But that guy's going to get 30 feet tall and 20 wide. There is also a couple of dwarf Austrian pines. One's called the Arnold Sentinel. That one gets about 10, 12 feet tall and only 5 wide. So if you even have a narrower space, it actually looks more like the regular Austrian pine with the longer needles, but a nice dwarf-sized tree.
I noticed you had some Scotch pines over here.
We do.
How do they compare to these guys?
The Scotch pines are going to get larger, in that 20, 30 range, and about 20 or so wide.
Are
Kind
they
of.
fuller than the?
Yes, they are. The Scotch pines are definitely fuller than these guys are. More bush, yeah, more Christmas tree shape, I guess, is better.
Not as fast growing.
Probably not quite as fast as the Austrians. Yep. And this is one of the smaller examples of a deodar cedar. This one's actually the golden deodar, and I really like it because it does have this striking color. This one doesn't get quite as big as our regular deodars. Regular deodars are going to get in that 40-foot tall range and about 20 wide. This one kind of stays in that 20, 25, and maybe 15 or so wide. But all the new growth is all going to be this golden, beautiful golden color. The regular one's more of a blue-green, and they are also called like a California Christmas tree. I will warn you that most of the deodars are kind of scraggly when they're young, but it's kind of just how they grow. We all are kind of gangly when we're little, and we get these long legs, and body's just not quite figured out what it's going to do yet. But once they start growing up, your branches kind of even out, they spread out, and you've got this beautiful tree.
Tall and graceful. When they mature, they have that beautiful shape to them. The gangly ones are over there. See, these are like teenagers growing rapidly. That's a different kind of deodar over there. But they're beautiful trees, and you have a couple different varieties to choose from.
A couple of things that we didn't have enough space to actually, just toss them over there, that we didn't have enough space to bring in. Colorado blue spruce does really well here. The Fat Albert, if you're looking for something that is kind of slower growing, regular Colorado blue is going to get in that 40 by 20 range. The Fat Alberts are about 20 by 20. Kind of a wider tree. The Scotch pine's an option. We have Bosnian pines, pinyon pines. All of those trees do really well here. Like I said, we are fixing to go into that Christmas season. We bring in trees probably towards the first part of October. Middle October, we've got trucks coming in with a bunch of evergreens because we do living Christmas trees here, as well as fresh cut and all that. So, like I said, it's a great time of year to do evergreens, and we have a lot of them for you to look at. Hollies are one thing that we didn't bring up here. Hollies do really well. They're kind of one of those specialty shrubs that need a little bit of afternoon shade. But the ones that we do bring in we used to have to buy 2 plants in order to get the berries. Now they've hybridized them, so it's a combo. So you get the prince and the princess together, and you don't have to buy two to get the berries. The goshiki is another holly that does really well. It's called the false holly. It has a really pretty variegation to it if you have a darker corner in your yard.
So some of these hollies that Michelle's talking about are right over there. The goshiki, the variegated one, is down that way, a smaller one. And right behind us are some hollies that already have berries on them. So they're nice, evergreen, don't require much in the way of maintenance, and they're going to grow all year round.
Boxwoods are another evergreen that do really well here. There are two different varieties that we carry. The Green Mountain is a taller, skinnier shrub, whereas your Winter Gem is 5x5. So if you wanted a little bit thicker shrub, the Winter Gem is what you're looking for. One thing we didn't bring up is the honeysuckle halls.
Over in our vine section, we have honeysuckle, and of course you probably have seen around town the trumpet vines. They just are beautiful all summer long. They grow up and over fences, and they have wonderful flowers. On the other hand, the Hall's honeysuckle is an evergreen honeysuckle, and so it has those delicate yellow and white flowers all summer. They're very fragrant. You don't get those in the winter, but you still get the leaves. So sometimes folks will say, look, I need a trellis with some kind of privacy screen. But if you lose that privacy in the wintertime when the leaves fall, then that sort of defeats the purpose. The Halls will fill in really nicely. It's a very hardy plant. I have a Halls plant, the honeysuckle that I just grew as a mound. I had a big area to fill in. And this winter, I wondered how it was going to do after it had 2.5 feet of snow, plus the snow that I was throwing on top of it in the driveway that I couldn't get any farther than the honeysuckle. And actually, it seemed to like it quite a lot. It's doing well. So Hall's honeysuckle, great evergreen vine, can be a mound, can be up on a trellis. Probably once you get it going and you get that aroma, it will remind you of your childhood, which is one of the wonderful things about plants. If it reminds you of grandma's roses, it's very evocative. It's a very emotional kind of thing.
Yes. These are exciting. These aren't evergreens, but I had to show them off.
Okay, so anyway, where would we be? Where would autumn be without chrysanthemums, right? And we have these in so many different colors. I'm just amazed. Every year it seems like they're new colors. People come in ooh and ah about them, and they're just really beautiful. So when other things in the garden are maybe starting to slow down a little bit, the nights are getting cooler, the flowers, the roses have been pumping out flowers all summer. They slow down. These come along. And then look at how many flowers and buds there are in here. So these are wonderful fall flowers. They'll winter over, they'll come back in the spring and just be nice and green. Then they'll wait till fall for their time of the year. And then
Pansies, they will continue to bloom from now until the heat of the summer next May. They don't mind the snow. It can snow 2 feet, and as soon as they kind of peek out, they continue to bloom. Usually the only time these will die on you is if they get too wet. They're very prone to being too wet. So be kind of careful when you're watering these. But these are a great fall and winter, early spring plant. Last all year, all season for you. This one I'm actually going to pass around so you guys can smell it. This is stock. Has a really nice clove smell to it. This is another, and this is actually an evergreen. It'll stay green. Usually if it gets really super cold, the blooms kind of, you don't get so a profuse blooming of them, but as soon as it warms up, they start blooming right back again. So if anybody wants to smell this guy, I will pass him around. Come in a variety of different colors. Get in that 12-inch range.
So back to pansies, as Michelle mentioned, these flowers are anything but pansies. They can handle hailstorms, snowstorms. I always have a bunch of them in the winter, maybe 5 or 6 pots outside the front door. And one year a neighbor of mine came by after we had a pretty heavy snow and he said, "Too bad about your pansies. They're not going to survive this. They're under all this snow." I just kind of looked at him and nodded and I said, I wouldn't be too sure. So of course the next day, typical press, because the snow had melted, and the pansies looked around like, wow, this is great. It's really wonderful. So I did this for years and years. The only thing that ever was harmful to my pansies was javelina. And it took them 10 years to discover them in front of my house. But once they discovered them, they were back every night. And even if they didn't like them that much, they have to dig them up to figure that out. And so finally, I said, okay, I'm tired of sweeping that pile of soil every morning. I took the rest out, figured, okay, I'm not going to let them have the satisfaction of eating the rest of them and taking them out. This year, I'm going to put them in an enclosed area where even javelina will not be able to reach. It's like a second story there, so I know they can't reach that. But pansies really are, people come in and say, it's winter time, there's not much going on, I want some winter color. This is your plant. And we have pansies, violas, 6-packs, 4-inch. You can do mix and match with a whole range of colors. They're really great plants when you're thinking, gosh, most of my plants, not the evergreens, but my deciduous shrubs, they're dormant right now. And even the evergreens are not doing too much, they're just hanging in there. The pansies, a good choice. And where would we be?
Yes,
Now, this is decorative kale.
Yeah.
There's also edible kale, which I don't think is edible. Actually, I hate it, but I don't like vegetables that are really bitter, and kale seems to be that way for me. But these decorative ones have nice color, and they will hang in there probably until it gets really cold. Right? Maybe
They actually do. I mean, even with the snow last year, mine lasted all year. I pulled it out when I went to the petunias and the vinca and stuff in the summer. So it'll last all winter long. Pack rats got one of mine, but other than that, we did just fine. And they come in different colors. There's the red. And this one hasn't started doing its color, but you can see where it's just now starting to get purplish. There's a white, there's a pink. So you can do pops of color in your pots in different areas for the wintertime. So just remember, we have seasons here. Now's a great time to get your cool season vegetables if you like picking fresh lettuce or beets and all that. We've got them down in the lower house. So all the annuals we moved down to the bottom. So we're getting those in usually weekly. So stop by, take a look. It was a pleasure.